Kingston is a town ripe with development opportunities. With an MBTA station, direct access to two major highways, close proximity to Boston, and an abundance of undeveloped land in a commercially zoned area, we are developers' dream. Despite having ample attributes that make our town the ideal place to start a business, we've seen our economic and industrial tax base shrink over the last 2 decades while those around us have grown. From breweries and senior housing projects to office parks and restaurants, Kingston has passed up or denied some 20 projects that would have otherwise generated significant revenue and driven down our residential tax burden. On today's episode of Good Day Kingston, we'll chat with Sewer Commissioner Elaine Fiore and Water Commissioner Bob Kostka to learn more about Kingston's infrastructure needs and how these projects could have a positive impact on our town. Bob will also share a bit about Kingston's proposed manganese treatment plant, a mitigation project that will assist the town in delivering the best quality of water to all of its customers. So sit back and enjoy today's episode of Good Day Kingston. Elaine, Bob, thank you both for joining us today. I know we've got a lot to discuss, so I'm just going to jump right into the questions. Elaine, can you tell us how long you've served as a sewer commissioner? And in that time, how has Kingston grown, and how has the wastewater treatment plant grown or adapted to meet those ever-changing needs?
Okay, I've been a commissioner for 15 years now. Kingston has definitely grown in population. As far as the sewered customers, we've reached a point now that they're looking to utilize their properties to the fullest extent, and some of them aren't able to. Each property was assigned a specific allocation for sewer capacity, and now we have businesses and property owners, residential, looking to do more, and we don't have the ability to provide them the capacity.
And Bob, similar question. How long have you been a water commissioner, and in that time, how has the water department had to change or adapt to meet Kingston's growing needs?
Well, actually, I had to contact the administrator for the water department to find out how long I've been there. It seems like forever, but it's only been 26 years.
Only.
And what's changed since I've been a commissioner is we have put in 2 wells, built a water tank, manganese treatment plant. In my first day as a water commissioner, we opened the lime treatment plant that treated the aggressiveness of the water. So quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine, myself only being 33, what Kingston, was doing 26 years ago when you came on board. But, thank you for doing this for that long, and Elaine, thank you as well. Elaine, so what are today's needs at the wastewater treatment plant? I often hear people say we're at capacity, yeah. But you don't often hear a succinct explanation of what that means. So if we're at capacity, what does that mean?
Okay, the plant was designed to only handle so much flow. We have, DEP permits us to treat and discharge so much flow yearly. And we've reached that amount. And if we exceed that amount, we fined by DEP, and then need to find a way to correct the issue that's creating additional flow we're not permitted for. And that comes down to either disconnecting properties. So it's full capacity is a serious thing, and we're very conscious of staying within our permit because of the consequences are dire.
Okay. And because we're at capacity, and I think you alluded to this, I mean, homeowners, property owners are looking to do different things with their houses, with their vacant parcels. Have we turned down business opportunities, and what are the implications for us being at capacity, or what does that mean for those looking for the additional capacity?
The town's missing out on a lot of opportunities. For example, there's an 8,000 square foot office building that wants to go on a property that currently has a single family home. There's not enough capacity. From a residential perspective, people can't put an apartment over a garage. They can't add a mother-in-law apartment for in-laws or anything like that. So it's a hindrance to growth in Kingston. And businesses, we had a farm-to-table establishment interested in going in the center of town. The property was allocated capacity for retail, not a restaurant. So things like that, it's more the uses changing as the times change, and we can't keep up with the demand.
So we're saying flat out no.
Flat
I'm sorry.
no. And the sad part is we don't even know the opportunities that aren't even coming to town because the word on the street is Kingston doesn't have capacity.
So we're at capacity. We've got to say no. We're turning down opportunities. What's the solution? What have you and the other commissioners been doing?
Based on the demand, we're pursuing a wastewater treatment plant expansion. We've worked very hard the past couple of years looking for grants and opportunities to pay for the plant expansion without it affecting taxpayers. So we're looking to, already have grants, so far guaranteed, $3 million, and we're pursuing more. And the sewage customers who are looking for the additional capacity would be the ones to purchase and pay for the plant.
So you said that the sewered customers, these are folks who already live or already own properties that are on the sewer line. They might have one bathroom and they need 5. They might have one bathroom and they need 10.
Correct, exactly. We're not looking to expand past the existing sewer line, except for the projects that are being discussed at Exit 8.
Okay, can you just give us an example, I guess, something that folks would recognize from driving through town, a vacant lot or a building that, if given the capacity, if it was there, could be, something different that would have a more positive impact on our tax base?
Perfect example is Exit 9, right across from Mamma Mia's. There's two vacant lots there. And there's a big billboard up there that says, coming soon, 2,200 square foot office building. They need sewer capacity to do that. Without sewer capacity, that project isn't moving forward.
So it's a vacant lot with a billboard until we're able to, give them the capacity. Okay. So so you just mentioned this, that you're looking for ways to do this that don't affect every homeowner. So what's that structure look like, or what's being proposed?
We're seeking authority at town meeting to build 2 additional tanks at the plant. Then we get a positive vote, we're going to go out and solicit those interested in the capacity. If we don't have enough interest for 2 tanks, we'll cut it down to 1 tank. If there's not enough interest for 1 tank, then we stop and we don't even move forward.
Now, are we talking doubling the capacity with 2 tanks, or what's that?
Yes, 2 tanks would double the capacity and have endless opportunities for the town.
Okay, and I know that this conversation has been happening all throughout town. So if a yes vote at town meeting gives the authority to pursue this, and then 6 months down the road, it's decided that the capacity requests just don't exist, or they exist at 50% of the doubling of the plant, is the town on the hook for anything, or what's the process there if the demand turns out not to fill 2 tanks or fill 1 tank?
We don't plan on spending any money unless through the grants. We will utilize that. And if it doesn't go forward, then we just stop. Our intention is not to put the town or existing sewer customers in a position to have to pay any debt because we didn't do our due diligence.
And I think if I heard correctly at previous meetings, the one, I guess, instance where the town could decide to spend money on this would be if they wanted to buy capacity to hold for a future town project. So that could be affordable housing or anything like that.
Exactly. There's 80 acres of land right now on the sewer line. That includes Kingston Schools, the townhouse complex, and some vacant property on Maple Street. Right now, those lots, those properties cannot be expanded. We don't know what's going to happen in the future with the schools, or even Town Hall, if we're going to, add another building for whatever reason. So without taking that into consideration, any expansions or developments on those properties cannot happen. And again, that's a vote at town meeting. If those in attendance aren't interested, then the town pays 0.
And has Finance Committee had the opportunity to vet this project?
Yes, they have. Are supporting the project. There was one abstention, but other than that, the parties present supported the project.
Fantastic. So I'm a numbers guy. I love stats. I love data. So I pulled some information prior to sitting down with you both today. And I just want to run through this. So in 1995, Kingston's commercial industrial tax base made up 24.2% of the town's tax revenue. Flash forward to 2015, it decreased to 13.3%, and today it's 12%. So Kingston's master plan speaks specifically to rebuilding our commercial and industrial tax base, and this project does that. So can you just, I guess, spell out how we could utilize capacity, additional capacity to drive down that residential tax burden?
For every dollar that commercial or industrial pays towards taxes is one less dollar that the residential property owners need to pay. And these projects that are in the pipeline, including affordable housing, all generate property tax revenue. And depending on the use on the property, if it's a restaurant, we could get meals tax revenue. So every opportunity will at least generate a few more dollars than we're seeing today.
Okay, so I'm not a sewer commissioner. I'm a tax-paying resident of Kingston, but I just want to make sure that I understood what you just laid out correctly. So Kingston is currently at capacity, can't put any more on it.
Correct.
As a result, homeowners who want to add an in-law apartment, businesses who want to develop a parcel that they own, any sort of expansion like that, we're saying no to. We're turning down flatly because we do not have capacity. If this project passes, we will have capacity. We can invite those businesses to come to town. We can invite those property owners to develop their land, and we can start allowing for those individuals who want to build equity in their house by adding an in-law apartment to do so. And only the user groups, so only the folks who are asking for this capacity will pay, but the economic benefit is something that will be felt by all residents
Exactly.
in Kingston. Okay, so how did I do?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. And Bob, I don't want to, neglect you over here. So as Kingston aims to build this commercial industrial tax base, something else that's come up is the necessity for high pressure water in South Kingston, where a lot of this development will be going on. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges and opportunities presented by development in South Kingston from a water commissioner's perspective?
From the from the time they put in Independence Mall, we've had issues with water pressure down there. The Kingston Independence Mall had to put in a booster pump station in order to be able to put the fire suppression system in that they needed. Any activity down that section of town always we're guardedly optimistic, or maybe not so optimistic, because we can't get enough water pressure for fire suppression, for our sprinkler alarm systems, which, by the way, all new buildings are required to do. So in order for us to do anything in that section of town, which is clearly the place where we want to see our industrial growth is where the industrial park is, we would need to extend the high-pressure main into that area in order to hook up new businesses and maybe even hook up some existing businesses to give them the pressure that they would need in order to pull this off. We're extremely limited right now. I don't think we can really accommodate very much of anything else down there at all, because, and quite frankly, if there was a fire and there was another incident down there, we may not have enough water pressure to put the fire out. So it's important to us that we be able to extend that high-pressure main down into that area. That would accommodate the growth that we're talking about at the mall. And essentially, the mall apartments and hotel probably can't happen without this happening, because there won't be available water for them to do it. So it's a very important piece of this whole puzzle that has to fit in there.
Now, the high-pressure water system isn't something that we'll see on the warrant coming up in May, but is this something that we can expect to see at a future town meeting?
I'm not even so sure if it would be a warrant item, because I understand there's a possibility of getting some grant money to run that water main. So we may need the town meeting to approve using that money for that purpose. But again, and I agree with Elaine, we're not talking about putting anything on the taxpayers. Anything that we do with water will be on ratepayers, and in the case of running this water main, if we get a grant, we're talking about very minimal impact on ratepayers, at the same time adding on a whole bunch of people that will be consuming supply, which will be paying into the system. So I don't see this as having an impact on ratepayers.
And if I'm hearing this correctly, the larger projects that will have the significant or the most significant impact on our tax base, those projects hinge on sewer capacity. These projects hinge on
water pressure.
the delivery of high pressure water. Okay. So that's, I mean, that's an infrastructure project. Sewer is clearly an infrastructure project. One of the items that is coming up in May, however, is a mitigation project. I guess that is to say it's an unforeseen challenge that the town is now facing. Would we rather spend money on something that, on something like sewer or something like water that's going to have that economic benefit to the town? Probably, but now we're talking about mitigation. We're talking about delivering the best possible quality of water to residents. Can you just tell us a little bit about the manganese article and perhaps dispel any of the misinformation that you've heard
Sure.
in recent days, weeks?
When I became a water commissioner, there was no manganese in any of our wells. And some point, maybe halfway during my time as a water commissioner, we started noticing trace elements. Because we do constant testing all of the time for a wide range of things. We started noticing some trace elements of manganese. And every time we did a test, we were noticing increasingly larger amounts of manganese to the point where the customers started to see the issue. So in the high-pressure zone, which is where it happened first, we had a number of people that had some pretty serious issues dealing with the gray water that they were getting as a result of the manganese in the water. So we proposed to the town, actually, we did a very extensive investigation on what was the best way to do this, and it took us quite a bit of time because we tried a bunch of possibilities. Changing where, for example, the water was coming out of the well. We raised the pump, we lowered the pump to see if where it was in the well was creating the problem with the manganese. And we realized that wasn't the case. So as we checked off each of the lower cost items to treat the water, we finally came to the point where we had to invest, had to bite the bullet and invest in a manganese treatment plant. If you drive down Bishop's Highway, you see that's the building on the side of the road, the big brick building that has a long flat roof, which by the way has solar panels on it. And that went online, and in a relatively short period of time, after we flushed pipes and cleaned some of the manganese from the bottom of the storage wells, the people in the high zone have no problem with manganese anymore. All of those people that were showing us all of their problems, that's gone. Unfortunately, because it's a groundwater issue, it wasn't just the Chaco Pond well, it was also infiltrating all of the wells in town. We started to notice increased manganese in all of our wells, but in particular, the next two biggest wells, which is the 186 well and the Grassy Hole well, which is right across from the mall. When we put in the 186 well, we put it with the idea that we may need to put a treatment plant between the two of them. And instead of building two different treatment plants, we constructed it in a way that would allow us to put a treatment plant between the two of them. What we're proposing is building that treatment plant that we can take the water from Grassy Hole and take the water from the 186 well and have it treated through the new treatment plant there. When that happens, then the low pressure zone will be clean, the high pressure zone will be clean. We'll have 3 other wells that we use that won't be treated, but they're also much lower producing wells. So that said, we can monitor how we pump water out of those wells, and if not eliminate, certainly very much mitigate any infiltration of manganese into the wells. I seriously doubt we'll be coming for a 3rd treatment plant down there because, again, we're talking about low capacity wells. Our 3 highest capacity wells will be treated when we get this plant put in.
So again, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So the manganese, it's not heavy metal that's in the pipe.
No.
It's nothing that's leaching out of that whole plumbing system.
No,
it's
no.
coming from the ground. It's sitting in the tanks, and from time to time, it's what folks are seeing.
I think what people are seeing from time to time is if we have an incident in town, if, for example, there's a break in the water main, or if there's a fire that requires extensive flow, what you see is some of the manganese that is coating the pipes gets stirred up, and that's, if, for example, there is a water main break, we know we're going to get a couple of dozen phone calls from people who are on the line who are going to start noticing the gray water. They're noticing the gray water because when the main breaks, the water rushes to where the break is. That will stir up the manganese, so when the pipe is later connected, there's going to be a period of time before we can actually clean the pipes out by flushing. So whenever we have an incident like that, and we had a fire up on Summer Street, And we had a tremendous amount of calls from that. If you have a fire in the summertime where we're pumping maybe twice as much water as we pump in the wintertime, you're going to see incidents like that. Once we get the treatment plant in and once it's functioning, that won't be a problem anymore.
So you mentioned that when the Trackle Pond Treatment Center went in, it alleviated those issues. So it sounds like those issues were isolated to maybe a particular section of town or certain homeowners. Is the current issue or the current challenge that the water department's facing isolated to any particular part of Kingston, or are you seeing it throughout certain areas?
It's in the low zone. It tends to be in particular areas. For example, if there's any kind of a bend in the pipe that's been laid, you'll see the manganese start to settle in there, and then when you get a rush of water, that will get stirred up, and then the people downstream from that will hear it. People over here have no idea what you're talking about because their water's fine, but people downstream from where that incident happened will notice the gray in the water. Once the treatment plant's in, once we flush the pipes, and once we take the manganese out of the storage containers, in a relatively short period of time, all of the people that are currently experiencing problems with the gray water, they'll be eliminated.
Thank you. So that's mitigation. I just want to jump back to the economic development opportunities and for the infrastructure projects. So it sounds like a lot rides on these warrant articles, primarily sewer, which is coming up in May. And it also sounds like these are the sort of projects that can make or break Kingston's economic, our tax base. So if we do aim to bring in a larger company, a 150-key hotel, what have you, the folks who are going to have the biggest impact, these are the projects. So I just want to give you each, another couple of minutes. If there's anything that I guess needs to be shared, expressed, said, now's the time to speak to folks who are watching at home about the importance of these articles. So if there's anything else that you'd like to add, I would be, Bob?
Yeah, I do. One of the things we did when we built the Trackle Pond Treatment Facility was we built it to a larger capacity than we needed at the time, expecting that next well we need is going to be in that area because it's the only place in town we can build it. We can no longer put any more wells in the Jones River watershed because we've maxed our capacity for pumping out the Jones River watershed. So we have to be outside it. Outside it is a relatively small slice of Kingston. So we knew where we were going to have to find a well. We're in the process of exploring some very, very encouraging signs for a well that will be a relatively short distance from the Trackle Pond treatment plant. We built Trackle Pond treatment plant big enough so that we can add a vessel to it. And when we add the vessel to it, the water from the new well will go in there. And we're probably going to need one more well before we're at complete build out in Kingston. And that's where it has to be. So the proposal that we're putting forward, one of the reasons it costs more than the initial plant was we're also buying that vessel to put the third vessel into the existing plant, and then we're going to build a plant similar to the one that we have here. We're saving money because the plans are going to be relatively the same. We have the same consulting company that's putting together the drawings and stuff, so we're saving money there, but there's going to be more money to have to pay for that new vessel.
And that vessel's capacity, its infrastructure, it's
designed
growth.
to take the next well that comes online, which will be relatively short distance from it. So we'll pipe the water from the new well to the treatment plant, and it'll come back out into the high zone.
fantastic.
And if I just want to make it clear that the only reason why we're going for a sewer treatment plant expansion is because of the demand. It's not the sewer commissioners, we're hearing, we need to do this or we're not going to have any businesses in town, new businesses. In addition to that, I want to make it clear as well that the intent of this is not to sewer the rest of the town. We're not going down Wapping Road 106. We're not going down Pembroke Street, Route 27. It is in the existing sewer property, the existing areas, including the new Exit 8 opportunities.
Well, you both have very difficult volunteer roles in Kingston, so I don't envy you the least bit, and especially Elaine, having to say no is never easy and never enjoyable. having to say no to revenue that you know would otherwise be, you know, a tremendous benefit to Kingston and Kingston residents must make that even more difficult. So,
It does.
well, thank you both for coming on today. I really appreciated the opportunity to hear from both of you about the projects that your departments are taking on for the benefit of Kingston residents, Kingston's future. And I will look forward to hearing from you both making presentations at town meeting.
Thank you.
See you there.
Yes.